Hi, friends. Welcome to the second Literary Blend Interlude. I'm so excited for this one called Playing in the Story Sandbox. And joining me on the show for this interlude, you will hear familiar voices. Please welcome Bruce Buchanan and Jessica Lee Minneci. Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hey, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's so great to have both of you. I loved having you on for your individual chapters, and it's a delight to have you both on for this interlude. And I'm really excited. Jess actually suggested this topic for the interlude, and I'm really, really excited to dive into playing in the story sandbox, what that means. Sometimes in publishing, we can take things so seriously and forget to have fun, and that's what we're going to be chatting about today. So, just to kick us off, Jess, since you kind of suggested this topic, would you like to kick us off and share what this idea of playing in the story sandbox means to you?
Well, I originally thought about this topic because I think a lot of times people take writing so seriously. Like, you have to get published, you have to get that query letter done, you have to get that story done for the anthology by the deadline. Like, this has to be a certain way. A lot of the times you'll hear the saying, treat writing like it's your job because it really is. If you want to go anywhere in the publishing industry, you got to take it seriously. But I thought about this topic because I'm like, well, no one ever just told me to just open a sandbox and take a shovel and start digging and see what you find. Right? Like, that's not been the kind of I guess analogy that's been talked about recently, or at least in my brain recently. I've kind of been like, okay, I finished a novel. I need to edit it. I finished a story. It needs to go into this anthology. It needs to be this way. And that's great, but writing is creative. And our characters are all different. Our stories are all different. And we need to be reminded to just allow ourselves time to play in that sandbox because that's where all the ideas come from. So that's why I thought of this topic.
I completely agree. And those moments where you put those pressure points aside and just sort of focus on the fun of writing, that's sometimes where your best ideas come from. I mean, many of my stories that ended up getting published were ones that really I had not been thinking about for a while, but maybe I saw a call for submissions or someone mentioned an idea, and I'm like, well, okay, I'll put this other stuff on hold and just go play around with this idea. I think what Jess is saying is exactly right. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that this is supposed to be fun. This isn't supposed to be factory work or whatever. It's supposed to be fun, and if you treat it that way, I think you'll avoid burnout for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you mention avoiding burnout, and I love everything both of you said. I think for me, and I'm sure this is true for a lot of authors as well, once you cross the line from writing as a hobby to I want to be published, there's so much more pressure, your mindset changes, you kind of put everything you do under a microscope, and it is very stressful, and so I definitely agree with both of you that it's important to remember to have fun. And even if you are very focused on querying or on submission or something, and there's a certain manuscript where you're like, that's my pressure, like that's the one that my career is riding on, it's great to have other things going, and this is where the anthologies come in because that's my playtime. Yes, I want to be in more anthologies, but if I write a short story and it doesn't get accepted, totally fine. I can submit it elsewhere. And that's where, like, we can explore different ideas. You can get inspired to write something you never would have written otherwise if you didn't see the submission call, and just having fun with it and improving your craft along the way, I think is really important. And just having that fun project along with the one that you're really putting all the weight on, because that's a great way to allow you to keep having fun along the way, even though it can be stressful.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a way to blow off some steam. And a lot of these calls are really fun. I mean, not to self promote here, but Prom Perfect, which is an anthology that I'm in that's coming out at the time of this episode, we are recording on the 14th, sorry, the 16th of April.
What are
We're
dates?
recording on the 16th of April, and Prom Perfect comes out next week. And that anthology call was super fun. I didn't see myself writing a prom ghost story ever, but that prompt gave me something to think about. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this would be so fun. And so I just submitted for the fun of it. And anthologies are such a good way to get your name out there and to get published. And so, like, I thought of the story Sandbox because it's really fun to play and to do something interesting that you normally wouldn't do. And it honestly feels like every time an anthology call comes up that I'm in a creative writing class going, here's your assignment. Go forth and just enjoy. So that's what I love so much about them.
Jess, not to put you on the spot, but I have a question. Is there a particular genre that you've never written in, and actually for both of you, that you've never written in before, but eh, that you would like to just give a try, even if it's not going to be like your main area of focus?
Actually, yes. So there is a horror anthology call um later this year that I'm planning on submitting to, and I don't write horror. I mostly write fantasy and some romance. And so I'm actually excited to dip my toes into doing something like that.
Yeah, horror was one that I didn't do until I started doing anthologies. Now I'm all over the horror submission calls. I'm trying to think. I feel like I've pretty much been across the board. Like I did fantasy, I've done like thriller, mystery, horror. I did a romance. I did a dystopian. I feel like I touched on all the ones that I would like to do. I even did a magical realism. So I feel like I covered the spectrum. But I'm sure there'll be like I'm trying to think like if there's anything. Um, no, I can't really think of any that I haven't done that I would like to. Cause it really allowed me to do different things. Cause every time I see submission calls, I'm always like, oh, I want to do this one, even though I don't have time.
I want to do a western at some point, and maybe a hybrid of like a speculative fiction western, like a space western, or western slash horror story, but never done that. And that's just something I don't even have a story idea, but if at one of these days I'm going to just brainstorm a wacky, completely off the wall western story, and start writing it.
That'd be really cool.
Right. So a question I have for both of you is, we're talking about why it's so important to have fun playing that story sandbox, but sometimes it can be very difficult to have fun, especially if you're querying and getting rejections, or if you're submitting to anthologies getting rejections. No one's picking up your book when you're submitting to publishers. Like it can be very difficult. So in those moments where you're just not feeling the creativity, the enjoyment feels sucked out of you, what advice do you have, or how do you personally get that fun back into your creative process when you're feeling those difficult emotions and a lot of pressure?
I personally go back to my default setting. And my default setting is reading one of my favorite books and thinking about the characters in terms of like putting them in wacky scenarios and thinking to myself, what would my favorite characters be doing right now? And that kind of brings me out of my own writing sphere because I feel like focusing on someone else's writing, especially if it's your favorite author, just makes you feel really happy. And additionally, it's also very nostalgic. And I think it's fun having those thought exercises too, because then you can apply that to your next character. Like, what's their favorite flavor of ice cream? Or if they were at a party, would they be on the dance floor or would they be on top of the bar? Or would they be in the corner on their phone waiting for an Uber?
I'd be in
Like,
the
what would they
corner.
be doing? Yeah, me too. Me too.
That's a great. I had not thought about that, but that is something I'm going to give a try to. My sort of go to tip for finding fun. Every time I have a story idea, even if I don't have the time to write it at the moment, I just keep a document where I just throw in, a paragraph or so of story ideas to write in the future. And, you know, 6 months, a year from now, if I'm needing to, boost my spirits, or if I just have some free time, I'll go back to that list and pick something that sounds like it might be fun.
Yeah, no, I really like that. Both of you had really great answers to that. I feel like for me, I really like to remind myself of a story I wrote that I loved and remind myself of how I felt when I was writing it and how much fun I had writing it. And actually going back to like reread it and put myself back into that story. And for me, that's Darius Shadows, which by the way is mentioned in a Kirkus review. But no, it's crazy. But like that's one like whenever I feel like, "Oh, I can't do this again," or I'm really stressed out, like, I literally open Diary of Shadows and read it, and then finish and be like, "Yep, I wrote that, and it's good."
I feel like too, there's often times where you need a pick me up. So um, finding an old short story you've written and trying to find an anthology that fits. And then once you do, that's always a mood booster. So there was an anthology this year that I submitted to actually last month that I'm hoping to get into. I submitted one of my stories that I wrote during grad school back in 2023. And it's a story that's really close to my heart, and I'm hoping it gets in, and if it doesn't, that's okay. But it was kind of, a great pick me up to be like, "Oh my gosh, like, this might fit, the stars might align here." And it just makes you feel good knowing you're like, "Oh, this story has a purpose, it could go somewhere," like, it doesn't have to stay in my finished pile, like, it might be able to fit somewhere. That's an awesome pick me up too, it's a definite mood booster for me.
Yeah. No, and I also love how you mentioned like the whole idea of a purpose because I think that can tie into like everything. I think as authors, sometimes we can lose sight of our purpose in our stories, but a big part of, having fun is reminding ourselves we have stories to tell. They deserve to be told and readers deserve to read them. And so I think reminding ourselves of that can help bring the fun back into it. Because I don't know about you guys, but like there's like a fun like competitive side of me like it's crazy. I love submitting this stuff and, like, waiting for answers even though it's stressful, and I'm querying again now, and it's weird that I'm, like, low-key enjoying the process after hating it before, and I'm just, like, finding fun and enjoyment of, like, throwing my stories out into the world and hoping to hit the jackpot with it. Maybe that's just, like, a part of my personality. I think, like, some people aren't like that, but I think if you can find fun in the unknown in a way and like wondering like what could be like if someone loves a story it could be published or if someone loves my manuscript it could be represented and the possibilities for me is something that I love to hold on to because it reminds me of yes this is my career path but I'm having fun along the way and playing games of chance as well.
Yeah, that being said, it's also fun to think about past anthology stories and other stories that you have written in your notes. Like, Bruce was saying he keeps a log of like story ideas. I don't
Hmm.
know about you, but like character names, I keep a log
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I have favorite names that I'm like, this isn't gonna be in a short story, it's gonna be in a novel and he's gonna be the protagonist because I love his name. And his name can't just be a one-off in a short story. He has to be in a full-length novel. And so it's
Yeah.
also kind of fun to imagine the possibilities for what that character could be. And it's like, I have these names right here. I haven't written you yet, but I know you're gonna be in something. Or like one of the stories that I wrote, um for the Dragonflight anthology that came out earlier this year, like it definitely has like how when you come up with a story idea and you're like this is great for a short story, it could be a novel. I feel like that's one of those. And I'm very excited because I think to myself this world is so simple and fun but yet so expandable and I feel like that's the foundation for a series. So even encouraging yourself and saying Like, maybe this story didn't find a home, maybe these characters haven't been made yet, but, like, there's a possibility that they could be made these characters could be made into a story, or this story could be made into a novel, and, like, thinking about that just makes me smile too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that the sort of infinite possibility is one of the most exciting things about writing. And uh, another thing I would just suggest that really adds to the enjoyment of writing is find yourself some writing friends that you can swap stories with, and you know, to let them read it, maybe offer some feedback, but more just that you have a sounding board, just people to bounce ideas off of, and vice versa, and and to root for each other's successes, because that's, you know, having that companionship on the journey is a big part of having fun, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really happy you brought that up because I was literally about to as well. I think when you have people you can just talk to about publishing and bounce story ideas off of, it makes the experience so much more fun. Jess and I, the hour-long conversations, like brainstorming, it's ridiculous. But like that makes it so fun. And like if you're stuck, you can ask friends to, help you sort out plot holes or like just in conversations, like, there's so many times where I've just been in, like, casual conversation with, like, writing friends, and all of a sudden, like, a whole story idea would click in my brain, or I would be, like, at a writer's block point, and then all of a sudden, like, one thing a friend said just completely opened the floodgates, and I'm like, I have the whole thing figured out now. So friends are great, and they bring the fun into it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree 100%.
Perfect. Well, we had such a great conversation. So, just to kind of wind down on our chat, I would love for each of you to share one more thought on playing in the story sandbox.
The best way to start is just to start. There's no harm done in just sitting down and trying a story, even if it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, you know, you might just enjoy the experience of writing, and those and just the work of writing will help you for stories down the road, even if this one doesn't go anywhere. So don't let your self-doubt keep you from just trying new things, and having fun with it.
Yeah, I would agree. I was gonna say something similar, but the mantra that I repeat to myself sometimes is give yourself permission to have fun. Like, give yourself that permission because sometimes,
Hmm.
again, you take yourself too seriously, or at least I take myself too seriously. I'm my own worst critic. So being your own worst critic has it's good and it's bad, and sometimes it prevents me from doing what I want to do sometimes or doing what would work. And I actually had a writing mentor who would she would start her writing day just doing something random and having fun with it, whether that be just writing random sentences, whether that's a character in her head that she writes. And she kind of does that almost as like a warm up exercise before she would edit a manuscript or do something more serious that required like a different part of your brain. And sometimes a writing warm up can turn into something.
Perfect. Yeah, I love what both of you said, I think. Just to wrap up the chat, I just want to emphasize again that writing should be fun. And if you're ever in a situation where you're absolutely miserable, that's a problem. And you need to kind of take a step back and do some reflecting on what exactly is causing you to feel that way. I think sometimes if you can pin down the source and you can address it, if querying is stressing you out, maybe pause querying for a couple weeks just to get back in a better place mentally and find your love for writing again. If you're working on a story and you're just stuck on it and you're not enjoying writing it anymore, then you can try writing a different story. So I think if you're ever feeling like you're lacking the fun aspect of writing, do some reflecting and ask yourself what is causing that and see if you can make any adjustments to your writing process or what you're doing with your journey at the moment to try to bring that love for writing back because at the end of the day, we're all writing because we love stories and it's supposed to be fun. So find ways to bring that fun back into your writing life. Perfect. So it was lovely having both of you on the show. This brings us to the plot twist. So I'm going to ask you a question. Both of you are going to answer it. So speaking of playing in a sandbox, and I thought of beaches. And so if you are going to the beach tomorrow, what is your top pick for a perfect beach read? What are you reading on the beach?
I got this one. Uh, funny story. Funny Story is so good. I love Funny Story. It was one of my favorite romance reads of last year, and I read it, was sad that I finished it, and then read it again. So, Emily Henry Strikes Again. It was so good. I loved it so much.
Um, wow, that's a very good question. I and I'm trying to think of a good answer. Um, what is a good beach read? I am going to say I'm going to bring along some classic 1960s Marvel comics by Stan Lee, and just read those because I can just fun, just kind of enjoy those because they're fun and just adventure, and that will be what I take to the beach.
Perfect. Well, thank you both so much for joining me. Can you please share with everybody where they can connect with you online?
Sure. So you can find me at Jessica L. Minneci on Instagram and Twitter, and also on my website at jessicalminneci.com. And my name is kind of complicated, so it's Jessica L. M as in Mary, I as in ice cream, N as in Nancy, N as in Nancy, E as in Echo, C as in Charlie, and I as in ice cream.
Now I want ice cream. I hate you.
Sorry.
All right, and you can find me on Twitter at B Buchanan Womble, BBUCHANANWOMBLE, and on Instagram at Bruce Buchanan 7710. If also have just launched a website, Bruce Buchanan yeah, brucebuchananauthor.com. So you can go there and find out about my upcoming debut new adult fantasy novel, The Blacksmith Boy, coming
Woohoo!
August 12th from Wild Ink
Oh, I'm
Publishing.
so excited for you.
That's my sister's birthday.
Uh,
My sister and my best friend have that birthday. Oh, you're lucky.
well,
Aw.
I am. So
Good for you. That's so exciting.
I'm I'm excited, and happy birthday to your family there.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you both so much for joining me for this fabulous interlude.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
You're so welcome, and listeners, that is a wrap on this interlude with Jess and Bruce, all about playing in the story Sandbox. If you enjoyed our conversation, please consider leaving Literary Blend a review and giving it 5 stars to help others just like you discover it. Also, if you have friends in publishing you think would enjoy the show, please pass it along to them. Thanks for listening, and until we flip to the next chapter, happy reading and writing.